sorry. Are you here? That was just me pretending to be a doctor, ignoring the symptoms of women in perimenopause. Did you know that doctors tend to ignore the needs of women in perimenopause?
It kind of sucks for us, right?
Alright, well stay tuned and I'm going to explain why. Today I want to shed light on the crucial issues that are facing women and why doctors are ignoring us as we battle through 70 symptoms or more in perimenopause. Because what we need to do as women is really learn to advocate for ourselves amongst medical care professionals. Might not seem like us as like the layperson who doesn't know much about medicine should have to do that, but here we are. But before we do that, my name is Grace and I am a perimenopausal baddie. Thank you for being here. Just because you're a woman does not mean you have to suffer. So the big problem is that medical care practitioners, particularly OBGYNs, everybody in the entire field of medicine has basically said, they've come out in the last 2 years, 5 years, 10 years to say when they went through medical school, they had 2 hours, 4 hours, maybe 6 hours tops covering this entire life cycle of women and our menopausal health. That's a problem. A lot of us are experiencing all these perimenopausal symptoms and we've been told for months, maybe even years, that this is just normal and it's natural and it's just associated with aging, and we're like,
What the fuck?
we've been told that our mood changes just need to be endured, even if we're feeling suicidal, and worst of all, we've been told it's all in our head. That's some disrespectful ass shit right there. Because as a perimenopausal baddie myself, I know this is not all in my head. I know it's not, because I'm not crazy. So the question is why? Why are we going to a doctor and not getting the help we need? We're describing our symptoms, we're listing it out, we're asking for help, we want more, and we're not getting it. If you ever wondered why, that's what I'm going to attempt to answer today. Because there's no reason why in this day and age, all of the money and resources that doctors are putting into researching so many things, that we don't have more up-to-date, current, knowledgeable information when we actually go to see a doctor, y'all. We should not have to be getting our information off YouTube, although thank you for being here. So of course there's a lot of barriers, but I want to just talk about what are some of the reasons that we are not being seen. Besides doing my own research, I'm getting some of this information that I'm going to share with you today from Dr. Mary Claire Haver. She wrote the book, The New Menopause, Navigating Your Path Through Hormonal Change with Purpose, Power, and Facts. I'm going to link the book below. It's been so helpful for me. It has a wealth of information and it's just an amazing book. I will also link her YouTube channel. She has a wealth of resources. So number one, besides the fact that people who are going through medical school are not getting adequate information, there's also a lot of confusion about perimenopause and menopause because it doesn't present in the same patient every way, every time. Symptomatically, we all look really different. Some of us might have really bad cramping, some of us might have really bad hot flashes, some of us might have really bad migraines, some of us might have really heavy bleeding, or none of the above. Because these changes in hormone levels look really different for everyone, it presents really differently for everyone. So we have to acknowledge, yes, it is a phase of life that is difficult to identify, difficult to recognize, it's difficult to diagnose, and thus difficult to treat. So yeah, I'll give perimenopause that, okay? One thing that's helpful for us to know is just because our symptoms aren't uniform and just because it might take doctors a little bit of extra work to figure out what's going on with this person that's really different than what's going on with this woman, we still gotta get some help. Yeah, it can look like a duck and sound like a duck and quack like a duck, and when it comes to perimenopause, into menopause still might not be a duck. Because honestly, it really depends on the time of day, even the time of month when you're testing. Your hormone panel could be really different. One month if your estrogen levels have plummeted, and then the next month if they're sky high. But also lifestyle factors, how you eat, whether or not you're active, do you exercise, do you smoke, your weight, your cultural attitudes around perimenopause, your socioeconomic status, your cultural status, your race, and even how you deal with these things in terms of coping. Like that all affects how it looks for you. We have to consider that doctors are looking at menopause as what happens when you've gone for a full year without a period. What's everything that happens before that? Perimenopause. It is by nature unpredictable. And then we're also in limbo because it's not like our body has told us, like internal download, like, hey, by the way, Grace, you started perimenopause back in 2018. I'm thinking about, January 25th, 2029. We'll be in menopause fully. So until then, just let your doctor know you're in perimenopause for these 10 years and we'll get it all taken care of. I mean, that would be so nice, wouldn't it? So in the meantime, we've got doctors screening for high blood pressure, screening for certain types of cancer, screening for cervical cancer, breast and prostate cancer. And then we've got them asking questions about our mood and depression and anxiety and things like that, and whether it's correlated or not. There's no real standard screening for perimenopause, and I think it's just good to know, like, that does make it difficult. And then we've got the disrespect too.
The disrespect.
Because yes, perimenopause and menopause is something that only women with reproductive ovaries are going to experience, but it's known as just kind of like a
women's issue.
whiny woman's issue. Women who can't get themselves under control and can't pull it together, and so it's often characterized as weakness. And that's really sad, because as a result, very life-altering changes happening in our body can affect us, and we're not being seen or treated or taken seriously. And that feels very silencing, especially in a very ageist society that we live in, where as we age, it's just not seen as cool, nor are we as valuable as humans. And that's awful to consider, because none of us should have to just tough it out on these major things happening in our bodies. We are being dismissed. People are telling us this ish is all in our head, and we know going into a doctor's office that our doctor probably doesn't have the correct education, that we might know more than our doctor about perimenopause and its symptoms, and have to educate our doctor on how to treat us. And we know that they might just see us as someone who's there to complain because we don't like our life circumstances. And that's really sad, because this has caused a lot of women to suffer completely and utterly needlessly, including myself. Here's a little bit of my story with this. I believe I started perimenopause around 42, 43 years old. Right now I'm 47. For 2 or 3 years, I had no idea what was going on with me. In the year 2023, I felt pretty much suicidal every single month. I was experiencing PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. I didn't know at the time, but perimenopause can make PMDD a lot worse. Every single month I was having such intense mood swings that I was feeling like unaliving myself once a month for probably 14 or 15 months. When I went to my doctor, an OBGYN, a woman, I said, I'd like to know some more information about hormone replacement therapy. I've been hearing a lot about it. I've been reading a lot about it. I think that might be something useful for me to get started.
And she said, well, only if it's really, really bad, because I don't want you to be exposed to the risks of cancer.
At that time, I was not in a position to advocate or argue for myself, so I just said, oh, okay, and I completely dropped it. She never brought up perimenopause ever again. I've seen her 2 or 3 times since then. She never brought up anything else about it. She never gave me information about it. She never gave it to me as an option. The only thing she did was push a higher dose of an antidepressant, which I did, but the unaliving ideations did not stop. I would think if I'm telling a doctor I want to kill myself every month for 16 months in a row, sometimes it's 2 minutes, sometimes it's 3 minutes. When I told her it was an hour or 2, which is the longest time I've ever had to struggle with that kind of ideation, that I ended up on the phone with the National Suicide Hotline. And for her to say, you know, I only consider HRT if it's really bad. Like, bitch, what is really bad then? What is really bad if that ain't really bad? Needless to say, we are being ignored. I do think that the reality is that women who've not been into perimenopause and menopausal states, or have not experienced it in kind of the worst ways that some of us had, sometimes don't have the inclination to push to understand. And that makes sense. And I do think that doctors who haven't experienced it, particularly male doctors, I can see why they're not researching it, because it ain't bothering them. There are real life stories of real women like myself who are being misdiagnosed or not helped in any way. And that is, I think, why we need to further this conversation. Because it's not just about medical practitioners missing the diagnosis. We already know that they're not being trained well in medical school. We already know they need better education on these kind of issues. There was a survey in 2013 by Johns Hopkins University. They found that 80% of medical residents said they felt only barely comfortable to discuss issues of menopause. There was another survey in the Mayo Clinical Proceedings that revealed similar outcomes for medical residents in the OBGYN program. And almost all of them reported that they had no confidence or competency in dealing with menopause. And this is true for most of the doctors that we're going to see, even though 51% of the population will experience perimenopause and menopause symptoms for perhaps a third of their life and not have anyone but ourselves doing the full research of what we need to do to care for it. That's just mind-blowing. I really hope that practicing physicians today will go out and get more training and get the education and the resources that this huge major thing that women are going through that we deserve, because we do deserve better. Trust me, if these kind of changes were happening to men, it would be studied. Dr. Mary Claire Haver said on the Diary of a CEO podcast, it's a really great episode, I will link it below. She said that this is the equivalent of like men turning 51 and their balls shriveling up and not working anymore. If that happened to men, how much money would be dedicated towards the study of male menopause? Millions, trillions, but we know who's in charge. And we know why this money is not, and research and education is not being allocated towards our issues. But we as patients deserve better, and this is a message for all of us to continue to advocate for ourselves. We really need to seek healthcare providers who know and understand our needs and who will validate us during perimenopause. An insufficient definition of aging is another reason why we are not getting the care we need. So basically, the medical establishment sees aging as aging. You're 30, then you're 40, then you're 50, then you're 60. And you're old. Chronological. As opposed to endochronological, which is the rate at which our ovaries are rapidly
dying off.
To say it nicely, we are ovary challenged. No, but seriously, our ovaries, as we know, we have millions when we're first born, and then, that's cut in half by the time we're 11 or 12 and going into our reproductive years. And now, me at 47 years old, right now I might have 300, 200, only 100 left, and they're rapidly dying off. So my endochronological age is much different than my actual age. But with chronological aging, we have all this knowledge and all this research and all these things we know to slow aging in this area and that area and this area. But with endochronological aging, it's completely inevitable, happening really fast in a short amount of time in our lifespan, the stage up until they're all basically dead and useless and unable to be fertilized in any way whatsoever when menopause officially starts. But so much less is known because of that. What I'm trying to say is basically there's a shit ton of reasons why the system is all messed up. It's not all our fault. It's not all doctors' fault. But let's just say whoever's fault it is, let's just do better. And for now, it's crucial and critical for us to do our own research. I'm going to talk later in a different video about how hormone replacement therapy has got a bad rap. I truly believe in it from all the research I've been doing and the books I've been reading. I believe, and in addition to some friends I was literally just talking to and other women I know who are on hormone replacement therapy, that is a game changer. I'm going to be starting it very soon, and I'm going to take y'all with me in that process. But whatever the case may be, it's really important to get around people who will validate for you what you're going through. I've realized just in the past few years that it's really important for me to have friendships with and seek out women who are also going through some changes like I am, because man, this has been a big deal in my life. If you found this information useful, don't forget to boopity boop the like button. Please subscribe and share this video with a friend, girl, because we all need it. Community is important. I pray you have a wonderful day. Bye.